This is the Healing Project Wellness Series, and I'm your host, Carolyn Jones. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Jones, and this is the Healing Project Wellness Series, and I'm proud to be your host and producer. The Healing Project is an interactive workshop that's designed to educate participants about various healing modalities that will effectively strengthen the immune system and detoxify the body for improved health and well-being. And you have self-care resources that are made available. And we always have special guests each month. Joel A. Barker says, vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes time. And vision with action can change the world. You will receive a link for this recording for your paid session as soon as post-production is complete. Don't share the link because it's unique to your registration code, and a new link is sent out each month. As a courtesy to your classmates and the presenters, we ask that you mute your audio and stop your video if you need to take care of personal business to secure your privacy. We keep the mics muted to give each speaker the opportunity to complete his or her presentation. Comments and questions are welcome. And please encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to join us. Self-care is extremely important, and knowledge can save lives. I am a bereavement chaplain with New York State Chaplain Task Force, an herbalist, certified aromatherapist level 1, and I believe that integrative medicine is a wonderful and effective self-care option. My professional memberships and affiliations are with American Herbalist Guild, Dopo Doulas, Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism, Washington Institute of Natural Medicine, and Mother Earth Living magazine as a contributing writer. I would love for you to stay connected with me. My website is www.behealed.info, and my Instagram tag is THP_the_healing_project. If you would like to read my publications, they are Pick Up Your Bed and Walk, a self-care guide to improve health, and Incantations. Pick Up Your Bed and Walk is a handbook that will help the beginning herbalist or self-care individual move from A to Z to become familiar with the herbs, oils, tinctures, and therapies available in order that one can reach a higher state and level of improved health. Incantations works on your mind with affirmations. There are at least 103 affirmations that you can focus on to have a better way of addressing yourself and others. And please ask about the Healing Project Wellness Series one-on-one self-care courses. Right now, I have developed Holistic Grief: A Personal Journey, Chakra Cleansing with Essential Oils, Plant Magic, Basic Herbalism, Aromatherapy Basics, and level 2 of aromatherapy is olfactory aromatherapy for self-care, Holistic Grief, Navigating Loss with Adaptogens and Homeopathy. Yes, you can address grief with herbs and tinctures. and homeopathic treatments. Whole body wellness, stress management for senior citizens, and health is wealth. As we move through the year, our next 4 sessions will address emotional trauma, teach us how to be still and stand strong, teach us about Mother Earth Living Magazine and how they bring community and herbal education together, and also surviving to thriving with grace, how to stand within the storm gracefully. And as always, you can register each month on www.behealed.com/events. The music that you heard is by Aminbir Singh, and he is my acupuncturist, yogi, gong healer, astrologer, musician, and a wonderful vocalist, as you heard. His website is www.authenticharmony.com. And the music you heard was Apsehari Hoa, which means you divine one have become my refuge. True is your support, great, creative, infinite. I want to thank Mr. Donald Burton for supporting us each month. He is an independent Medicare broker, and you can reach him at 856-882-6607. He asks that you secure your future. And we want to hear from you, so please speak to us, call us, email us, and during the class, address us with your questions. And we want to hear your comments. We are learners as much as we are teachers. Today's topic is generational wisdom, tilling ancestral soil. Okay. So I'd like to take this time to welcome my friends Donald and Tracy. Tracy, tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I met Carolyn a couple of months ago through looking for a resource for a client who had gone through a recent loss of a child, and we just became friends. Like, it was just like an instant friendship, and I just absolutely adore Carolyn. So I learned about her through the webinar that she did for the American Herbalist Guild, and just was totally drawn to her energy. I'm also a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild and a holistic nutritionist and a reflexologist. I have a practice in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I got interested in all of this, as so many people do, through my own quest for healing. I was very seriously ill with lupus about 25 years ago. In fact, I almost didn't make it through lupus. And so I turned to holistic therapies and started trying things, and then realized I was going to have to study if I was going to get myself better. And I decided that I would learn holistic wellness and I would get well, and whatever I did to get myself there, I would use to help other people. And here I am, all these years later, completely well from lupus, totally, completely healed. Like, it's absolutely gone.
Yes.
And I know, I was at death's door back then. And I completely regained my health, and I have a holistic wellness practice in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's my what I do for a living. It's what makes my heart sing. It's what nourishes my soul and my spirit. And I'm still learning. Like, you never arrive at learning, so I'm still learning. And this year I made the decision to return to college. I had to quit going to college. I was just like almost about to have a bachelor's degree in math education decades ago, before I got sick with lupus. And I had to sit out from college. My goal was, at the time, I thought, I'll get my health back and I'll go back. It didn't work out that way. And this year I decided it was time to go back and finish that dream. and I changed the course that I was going with college. I'm studying psychology now and
Awesome.
working on getting a degree in that along with my business and everything else I do. So I'm busy. I love it. Yeah, it's just, it all makes life beautiful.
That kind of story and testimony always makes me so happy, because what most people don't realize is healers heal others from what they learned while they were healing themselves.
Right.
Yes. And so before we find out what Donald does, could you please show us and share Molly with us?
Oh, sure. She went under the table. She's completely invisible right now. Let me see if I can get her out. Come on, Molly girl. Can you come out? All right, let's see if I can.
There's a baby.
There's my Molly girl. She's looking out the window now.
Yeah, she said, I got other interests. And just give Donald a quick background on Molly.
Okay, so Molly is she's a healer too. So yeah, she works with me here in my office. She is trained, she's professionally trained. She's trained to be therapy dog, service dog, all those things. She loves all my clients. She's there for them while they're telling their stories to me. She is a beautiful spirit. She just touches people everywhere she goes. She's with me everywhere I go around town. So like everybody knows Molly more than they know me. And so she's a whippador. Whippadors are half whippet and half lab. And so life is all about the bunnies for her. Bunnies are her kryptonite, but Molly is she's an angel. Here she's in the window again. She is the spirit of my clinic. Let me tell you what, she meets everybody at the door and just welcomes them. And she's like, I'm here to take care of you. What do you need? And she's just an angel. She's an angel. Yeah. Nice. Oh, she went, when I was studying to become a certified emotional healing coach, she went with me to St. George, Utah for the sessions that we did there with Stephen Horn. And she just took care of everybody there as we did our work together and everything, went through all of it with me. So when I graduated from that and Stephen Horn gave me my certificate as a certified emotional healing coach, he gave Molly one too. He made her an honorary certified emotional healing coach. So she actually has a certificate. She's the only dog in the world who is an honorary certified emotional healing coach.
That's awesome.
I love it. And so Donald, thank you, Tracy. Donald, tell Tracy about yourself.
Well, I first want to say to Tracy that her story, her testimony was very inspirational for me personally, because you brought back almost 24 years, 1998, the eve of New Year's Day, I lost my sister to lupus. And she was dear to me. She was a year younger than me, but at the time they had no research, a lot of research on it, and we really didn't have any connections to anybody who had a holistic approach and things of that nature. So she, unfortunately was under a lot of different medications, and she had a very severe case of lupus. And it got to the point where she needed a kidney transplant, and she, had needed a heart transplant. But she was so weak that we couldn't risk it because of, heart failure. And eventually that's what happened. So, but, you kind of, brought me back full circle in terms of meeting you. I mean, you said 25 years ago. So it's pretty close to around the same time.
Right.
And your testimony is really, really, how would you say, inspiring? And it lets me also know how far it has come when you look at other holistic approaches to like you said, you're 100% free. That's awesome. So, I just wanted to share that with you before I actually told you what I do. I met Carolyn maybe about a year and a half ago through a good friend of mine. He had lost his son, due to COVID at that time. But I was introduced to Carolyn, and the irony of it all was that I was kind of indirectly in the same line of work. But as I say indirectly, I'm an independent Medicare broker. So dealing with seniors and also people who are disabled, it allows me to help them in terms of, how to navigate through benefits that will help them from a health side. And when you're dealing with Medicare, obviously it's health insurance, okay, for seniors. And a lot of times they don't realize that there's a lot of preventive measures, a lot of holistic approaches that they can actually, take advantage of that enriches their lives as they age into, getting older. So in an indirect way, it definitely has that component attached to it as well. But the most important thing is to give people a direction and to also, keep them engaged, keep them motivated, give them outlets and programs that they can actually take advantage of that helps them in their everyday health. So, meaning, like I said, Carolyn was a breath of fresh air in the sense that I am familiar with the holistic approach because, over the years, I read about certain individuals who that's what they practiced. And in fact, the church that I was a member of, and Carolyn will tell you, Dr. James Still was one of the first in the 1800s that took this kind of approach. And he was very successful at it to a point where he became the doctor of the pines, and he was requested back then. And being African-American, that was tough for him because he had no formal education. So, but long and short of it, I believe that we come together for a reason. This is not a coincidence.
That's
okay.
That's
right.
And this is how, we all get connected. So, but, I'm involved with people. I'm a people person, and I try to, enhance their lives, through, my knowledge and my wisdom and my compassion at the same time. Like I said, we all have a purpose to why we're here. And this is a great forum to kind of pull us all together. So,
Yes.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. And what was so interesting, Tracy, Donald and I had gotten into conversation so deeply about health and herbs and Dr. James Still that when we finally met each other in person, we forgot we had never met each other in person.
Oh, wow.
yeah, like we know each other for years.
Yeah, I never met you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, isn't that just the best? Oh,
It
yeah.
is. And
Yes.
he sent me the Dr. James Still story. So this is what this session is all about. Generational wisdom and tilling ancestral soil. And one of the reasons that I invited Dr. Donald Thomas on is because he is my cousin, and he spoke about his mother. He actually, and you'll learn about him because I'm going to run through his information, so you'll get to find out how he healed himself of terrible joint issues. Even his dogs are vegetarians.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So today's topic is generational wisdom, tilling ancestral soil. And I want to thank you all for being here, for sharing your stories, because it lays a great foundation for what I am about to share.
Okay.
This is
Wow.
my mother, Lizzie Elder Jones.
Look at that.
I said my mother, my grandmother.
I'm about to say,
My grandfather, Willie Jones Sr. I never met them. They died when my mother was 16.
Wow.
Yes. My mother said that her mother died of a tooth abscess
Huh.
because the white hospitals wouldn't take her in.
Wow.
So, of course,
Wow.
we know that to be septic.
Right.
Yes. So I don't know how my grandfather died, but that story really stuck out in my mind
Mhm.
more than the discrimination,
Mhm.
how the abscess took her out, like got all in her blood, the infection. So, you know, I was talking to my mentor, Matthew Wood, and you know, I call his name everywhere I go. As a matter of fact, he was in New York recently, and he let me take him out for the day, and I took him to New York Botanical Garden for the
Oh,
orchid
nice.
show. Yeah,
Nice.
we went to the orchid show,
Nice.
and you know, I learned so much watching him as he immediately gravitated to different trees. He was able to tell me what trees they were. He would smell them. He would bite them, you know, different things that a master herbalist would do. So I learned so much just spending the day with him. And, you know, I also love him because he is an intercultural herbalist. You know, he studies all cultures to bring his knowledge forward in such a rich way. This is Dr. James Still, who's an herbalist, 1812 to 1882 is when he died. And of course, Donald gave us some background on him. Thank you, Donald. There is a foundation established by his family in New Jersey, where they have restored the house and have purchased the land, you know, and have created a historic site in Jersey, which I still have yet to get there. But
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's going to be this year, Donald.
Yes, we will. We're going to set a trip to go.
Yeah,
And that's a must because
it's a must do.
um, you are, not to cut you off, but you are, how would you say, enlightening your audience to who he is as well. And I'm pretty sure his relatives, his great-great-grandson, and those, you know, who are still, you know, walking the earth would be delighted to know that. And you need to meet them. You need to meet them as well. So
yes, yes, and they're wonderful.
they'll do that because they're not that far from me. Tracy, I'm like, I don't know if you've heard of Medford, New Jersey, but if you ever got on the New Jersey Turnpike and you drove heading south, we're like, that would be like getting off of, I would say, exit 4 on the Turnpike. And that kind of gives you a geographic location to where Medford is. Okay. It's not, maybe about 30 minutes from Philadelphia.
Okay.
So that gives you a little bit of perspective, but I'm not that far from him either. I may live about 30 minutes inland, you know, from Philly to get to him. So we're not that far.
Okay. Yeah. So you two aren't too far apart from each other.
No, you're not.
Yeah, neat.
Not at all.
It's our schedules that are keeping us
Yes.
from meeting our goal, but we're going to meet it this year. We're going to push schedule out of the way and do this. We're going to make it our schedule.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, we will. And in fact, and I just want to add one other thing, Carolyn, and before I get into this.
Sure.
His church, the church that his brother James, not James, he was part of the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman, his brother.
Oh.
Well, there's a church in Mount Laurel. It's right next to Medford, where he's actually buried. But they had an underground passage through the church, and it still stands to this day.
Right. And we had said we would go to church service one Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Too.
Because
We have some things to do.
you got some things to do. His grandson, Reverend Person, is the reverend of that church to this day. So
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, I was so fascinated when you told me about him, and even more fascinated when I read his story.
Yes.
And, you know, we always hear about Harriet Tubman dealing with the Underground Railroad, but we didn't think about the fact that she was a forager and an herbalist and kept the people alive and well while they made their journey.
That's
I
It
love
correct.
wasn't
that.
just about her loading them into a boat.
That
So
is
these
correct.
stories that we hear, we miss these little details.
Mm-hmm.
And George Washington Carver, he
Mhm.
was an agricultural scientist, a
Mhm.
fine artist and a musician.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1864 to 1943. So he died
Wow.
about uh,
79 years ago, roughly.
about 6 years before I was born, is what I'm
Wow.
saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Harriet Tubman, 1822 to 1913. Imagine knowing her and being her helper, you know?
Mhm.
George Washington Carver developed approximately 300 products from his work at Tuskegee Institute that
Mhm.
were made from peanuts. They
Mm.
included flour, paste, insulation, paper, wallboard, wood stains, soap. Oh, peanut soap. It has to be great, right, Tracy? Shaving cream, Donald, and
Yes.
skin lotion. That's
Wow.
going to make me do some research.
You got that right.
Yeah, and he experimented with medicines made from peanuts, which included antiseptics, laxatives, and a treatment for goiter issues. Now, what's so interesting about that is there are so many peanut allergies
I was
now
going to mention that.
that product would probably not do well in today's society. But what I would like to find out is how people began to get allergies from peanuts all of a sudden. I know that allergies come from too much, from excess. So I'm wondering if peanut was included in too many dietary products, you know, the candies and stuff. So I'm wondering if that happened. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but that's something to look at. I think I will.
Okay.
Sharecroppers. We were always, at least I was, my mother said that those two wonderful people I just showed you, my grandparents, were sharecroppers.
Mhm.
And so I always sort of like turned my nose up at the prospect of them being sharecroppers, because they were tenant farmers who give a part of each crop as rent. And we know, as you'll see from other research that I've done and included in this presentation, that it wasn't always a good situation.
Correct.
But think about this. They had skills. They planted seeds, tended the land, and harvested the land. But yet they're not celebrated agriculturalists.
Mhm.
And that's what they were.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that? Like when you hear the word sharecropper,
Right.
what comes to your mind?
Well, if you look at agriculture today, obviously, I mean, this country depends tremendously on agriculture to feed us and give us the fruits and vegetables that we need regarding our, you know, our health and what's healthy for us. And it is kind of interesting when you indicated the skill set. You don't think of it, so to speak, right out the gate, but you're absolutely right, and should be celebrated.
Yeah.
Of the importance of it, and who better would be or have those type of skills than a sharecropper.
That's right.
And so, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Tracy, any comments?
That's actually something I don't know a whole lot about.
Okay, well then you're going to be enriched.
Great, great.
I went online to Brooklyn Public Library and just pulled some books that could have some information in them about sharecroppers and herbs. And this was the passage I found: Bullwhip Days, the slaves remember an oral history. And these are actual slave narratives. And of course, we hear the word, I'm going to say it, nigger, bandied about as so-called terms of endearment. it rubs me the wrong way, but I won't even go down that path. But I found it interesting that in the narrative of the sharecroppers, that was regular reference for some of them. But I can't say all of them because I didn't read all of them. But this particular one, this passage spoke about herbs. And so that's why I chose it. But I was also taken aback by the fact that this particular slave, well, excuse me, sharecropper, probably the child of the former slaves, referred to her own as niggers. So I'm just going to use the dialect and read the passage as it is printed. Old Master was powerful good to his niggers when they got sick. He had them see that as soon as it was ported to him that they was ailing. Yes, and there weren't nothing short but our good master, deed there weren't. Grandpa Stafford had a sore leg, and Mars Nordnorth looked at him and had Uncle Jim dress that poor old sore leg every day. Slaves didn't get sick as often as niggas does nowadays. Think about that. We're gonna come back to that. Mammy Mari had all sorts of teas made up for us according to whatever ailment us had. Bold said tea was for colds. The first thing they always done for sore throat was to give us tea made of red oak bark with alum. Scurvy grass tea cleaned us out in the springtime, and they made us wear little sacks of asphytic round our necks to keep off lots of sorts of miseries. Some folks has hung the left hind foot of a mole on a string round their babies' necks to make them teethe easier. I never done nothing like that to my babies because I never believed in no such foolishment. Some babies is just naturally going to tease easier than others anyhow.
Wow.
So I just want to preface that by saying asafoetida is also called devil's dung. And I came in contact with it when I was having a terrible bronchial ailment. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Esther Onero, that I met at a spiritual retreat some years ago. And I bought it and she warned me, it stinks to high heaven, and it does. But you put it in a tea and you drink it and it clears up that congestion magically. Okay, have either one of you heard of asafoetida?
No, first time ever.
I have, and I've used it a lot. It's commonly used in Ayurvedic medicine, which I have studied a lot. So it's actually part of my daily repertoire. Yeah, and part of what I use with clients, although I've found ways to get it to them without it requiring drinking in tea, because that didn't go over so well, but it's an acquired taste for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what do you do with it? You put it in food or something, or other herbs?
I do. So I get it from Banyan Botanicals because they have it like in different tablet forms. So that combined with other herbs. So there's a lot of classic Ayurvedic formulas that are good for it. Like Hingvastak is a common one. The hing is what that is called in Ayurvedic medicine. So if it says hing, it's asafoetida. But yeah,
spell that because I'm going to look that up and include it in my inventory.
Hingvastak?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's Hingvastak.
Okay, long as I know how to start it out,
Right.
I'll recognize it. And Banyan Botanicals was mentioned by, was it Matthew? No, it was, last month's guest, my friend Abhay Wadawa, he's East Indian.
Oh, yeah.
And he knows about, of course, Ayurvedic healing. He goes to the Ayurvedic doctor. So your son was asking about Ayurvedic medicine as well, Donald.
Okay.
Yes, he's studying or wants to study or get into it, and I encourage him to do so. Good. And I also let him know that East Indian cuisine leans more toward the healing of the body with the use of the spices and all of that.
Mm,
Right, right.
like, okay, got it.
The person I have to give honor to for East Indian cuisine is, she's deceased now, but my first meditation teacher, Devya, she was a gong meditation healer. And after my first meditation session, she took me across the street to the Indian restaurant. And that's when I first had Indian food. And I have been hooked ever since. I even make it some now.
Wow.
I have some chickpea masala sauce in the freezer now, frozen, because I couldn't finish it all. I said, oh, you're not going anywhere. You're going to wait for me. So it's nice to mix with rice or put over your salmon, or, you know, anything that you might indulge in. If you're vegetarian, you could put it in your vegetables.
Hmm.
Very good. And
I can see why he would be interested in that too, because he's obviously into vegetables and
yes,
a different approach.
yes, yes. I'm very proud of his interest.
Hmm.
And I look forward to continued interest and growth for him. So the thing I want to point out on this page, I went back, is bone set tea, which is used for colds, but it's also used to set, to create healing in the joints and tendons and set the bones back properly. It helps them, you know, grow back properly. I learned that from Matthew Wood. And Solomon's seal is the herb that you would use with it. So I actually made a bone set Solomon's seal oil. I infused the oil to include in my joint pain cream. Now, red oak bark, that's interesting. I never used alum. I know white willow bark is the herbal aspirin. You know, they actually make aspirin from white willow bark. And white oak bark helps with things like varicose veins and hemorrhoids. You know, you can put it in the bath water to sort of soak yourself. And yarrow helps with bleeding. So if you have bleeding hemorrhoids, you can add yarrow to the water to make a tea bath. You know, herbs don't just have to be ingested.
That's it, right.
You can soak yourself in them.
Okay.
Now, the line that we want to go back to is slaves didn't get sick as often as folks do now. And why? Because they worked from the land. They lived off the land, and the vegetables were fresh, you know, all of these things.
Right.
Even though they lived in harsh conditions, for the most part, what they ate mattered. You know?
That's a very interesting point. I had picked up one of my clients about maybe 5 years ago, and the individual took a trip to Italy. And I picked her up from the airport and, you know, just asking her questions about her trip. And she was a pretty heavy woman. And she made a point to say to me that, you know, when they ate, you know, in late hours of the night, you know, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, so forth and so on. And I said, well, wow, is that good for you to eat that late? I mean, we're kind of being redirected to eat before 6 or 7 o'clock at night, because you don't want to go to bed with all that in your digestive system. And she said, well, interesting enough, she said, the difference is that they eat everything fresh. They don't eat processed. They don't eat frozen foods. They don't eat any of that stuff. And this is why they're able to keep, you know, the weight off of them, and they don't have the same health problems that we have in this country. And I thought it was pretty interesting, because it took me back to the days when my mother, I'm the oldest of 5, but she always caught the fruit man, the vegetable man, fish man, the meat man. We ate fresh every night.
Yeah.
It was no such thing as by pulling it out the freezer, unfreeze it, and then, you know, it wasn't, in other words, we didn't have all the extra preservatives in it. And if you think about it, you could preserve something, it can last on the shelves for months, maybe even years. What does that tell you?
That's right. Yeah. I don't buy canned food anymore. You know, I mean, fast eating is just not good.
No.
It's important to take one's time with preparation. Really think about where you're buying your food from, how it's grown, all of that matters, you know?
Okay.
Now, this is Dr. Donald Thomas,
Yes.
the king of new jump swing, healthy aging. And what makes him unique is that he was acknowledged by the Guinness Book of World Records 3 times for the longest sermon in divine nutrition.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I first went to the Big Island in 2015. I had already met him through another cousin by then, and we had planned to, when I first would get to Big Island, to meet with he and his wife and his 3 dogs. And so I stayed with them at the beginning of my visit at the end, because I was there for a conference, an astrology conference. And he took me to St. Joseph's Elementary School, where he was teaching the children how to jump rope for health. He was in better shape than most of them.
Sounds like
that was interesting to see, you know. And then here are pictures of his awards, and he also worked with the American Heart Association. He was a spokesperson for them in Maui. And this is an image of his first book, The Philosophy of Divine Nutrition.
Okay.
And these are his publications.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
And now, at 12 years of age, Donald developed Osgood-Schlatter disease, a very painful knee condition, and became a vegetarian, dedicating himself to development of a jump rope cross-training fitness program. That way, he rehabilitated himself from knee disease, knee surgery, and a respiratory disease. So truly, he certainly lives his message, and I'm going to stop sharing now just so we could talk to one another. He lives his message of divine nutrition and divine healing. I was definitely a witness to that. And I guess what I'm trying to convey through today's lesson, with or without the extra part that will be added to this webinar, is we have to leave a legacy of health and healing behind. We can't just keep the information to ourselves, you know. And I think that it's just wonderful how you're doing your work, Tracy, in working with the community to help them learn about their bodies. And the other part of this is helping the elders, Donald, as you're doing, learn about how to sustain themselves and also be aware of their dietary practices. You know, people have to take responsibility for the fact that what you put in your mouth can cause a problem. Yes. So if you have anything to add to that, I could appreciate it.
Are you referring to me?
Either one.
Either one. Yeah, well, you know, like you just mentioned, putting it in your mouth, into your body, and also it affects your mental. You know, we're trained, our habits is really, you know, where we run into a bit of a challenge. They're hard to break sometimes, but they also have to have alternative means to want to change that habit. And unfortunately, a lot of times we go through an illness that will sort of alarm at us and say, okay, now what do I do to help cure it or overcome it? And then we kind of react. So I think if we can be more proactive, as you pointed out, to prevent these things from happening, or take advantage of the resources and the information that, you know, that's really right there in front of them, that would definitely help. I know for me, you know, I'm approaching 64 this year. You know, I would like to be in a position as I move forward that I can, you know, say, okay, I got a little bit more longevity, but more than that, I got a quality of life. But it also means I got to change some things.
Yes.
I have it. Certain things that you eat, as you pointed out, and the exercise fact. You brought up the jump rope thing. It's pretty interesting. I bought a jump rope a year ago. I have a jump rope sitting on my nightstand. It's been sitting there. And
It's looking at you.
Sitting, and I'm looking at it. And when you mentioned, when I saw Dr. Donald with the, you know, the jump rope thing, it just resonated with me just that quick. It's been sitting on my nightstand for over a year. I took it out of the box, it's brand new. I don't even think I've opened it to even think about it.
Well, one thing that I would say is think about it in this way. Determine whether your body is amenable to high impact exercise or low impact. Now, for me, I don't know about you, Tracy, but for me, I love to walk. And I need low impact exercise. Otherwise, I'll disturb the knee that I healed when I had a meniscus tear. And I can irritate it if I turn it the wrong way. And then it takes me a couple of days to get back in order. But I am mindful about the type of exercise I do. So there are different ways to exercise. It doesn't always have to be jumping to start, but you got to strengthen yourself first before you do it. And there are some exercises that I learned through Body and Brain where you put your feet together like this, and they call it toe tapping. Tap your toes, but you make it jar all the way up to your hip bone. And it also helps with going to sleep as well.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. So a lot of times when I do it, it is in preparation to sleep, just to relax my body. And be sure you have your heels together like this, and then let your toes tap. Got it.
I'm glad you brought that up as far as the high impact and low impact, because that's probably one of the main reasons I probably haven't started jumping rope. I've had issues with my knees in the past. And for the first time, probably in the past year, I haven't had any issues with my knees. And they feel great.
You don't want to start now, is what you think.
Well, I was, you know, curious about that. If I started jumping rope now, will I get discomfort in my knees again?
You might. So what you might do is take the rope and put it on the bottom of your foot and start doing leg lifts with it.
Yes. Okay.
So you lay down, start strengthening your legs that way. And then do maybe 2 or 3 light jumps to see how your body responds. But all exercise is not for everybody.
Correct. And I don't like to walk. I mean, when I was a youngster, and when I grew up in New York City, I walked everywhere. I was younger. I'm not a big fan of walking now. And that's the interesting thing about I'll walk, but not as far as some people walk for, you know, exercise and then they go miles.
You do a lot of driving, so you've probably gotten your mind out.
That's part of it.
Do you like to walk, Tracy?
I do like to walk. Me and Molly take walks a lot. I especially love to walk at the Botanic Gardens here in Cheyenne. That's our favorite place to go for walks. We are there every day if the weather permits, which that is
wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm actually taking, Barry is Donald's friend. That's who I met Donald through. And today is Barry's birthday.
Yes,
and I'm taking him to Brooklyn Botanic Garden today,
Oh,
Oh,
nice,
birthday, yeah.
neat.
nice,
Cherry blossoms.
Oh,
nice,
wow. Oh, how
Yeah.
beautiful.
nice, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cherry Blossom Festival. You heard of it, Jerry? Yeah, okay. One of my partners, he said he heard about the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Yes, and so I want to catch them before they disappear because I understand it's a flash in the pan and then they're gone.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna get a lot of
Very
photographs
nice.
today.
Very
Mhm.
nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Tracy, did your family work with herbs at all?
So no, not so like my family of origin, no. And I'm very fascinated by your topic today. I'll share you a little bit. I don't know a whole lot about my family. I'm not from a family that is close or has contact with each other, or like I'm very separated from everybody. And so I have recently kind of gone on a quest to find out more about my family and do some ancestral healing. And there have been some hints that there were people in the past who may have had some herbal knowledge and stuff, and I wanted to find out about it. I have to share with you a little thing that came up because of this. So at the end of last year, and it was actually after hearing another presentation on the American Herbalist Guild symposium last year.
Yeah,
it was
it
from
was fantastic. Mhm.
yeah, this one was from a man who, like, I think he's like a shaman type healer. His presentation just like moved me
I
to
saw
tears.
that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can't think of his name. It might have been like Samuel.
I
Yeah.
can't remember. Go ahead.
Oh, it's just one of the most moving things I have ever heard. I like, it just brought me to tears. But he said, learn about your ancestry and find out, and you will find clues to what you need to heal in yourself. And you will find also, he said, the strength and the wisdom and the gifts that you have. So as a result of that, I did a DNA test, which I've always wanted to do. And I have to share with you a cool thing that I found out from there was something that I did not know. I don't know if anyone in my family knew this, or maybe it's just kind of been, kind of swept aside or something. But I found out that I have African ancestry.
Of course.
And right. And like never knew that. Never did that.
What part?
Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu people.
You gotta work, Tracy.
Wow.
That's probably why we connect so well.
I know, right? But so my family settled in the Virginia Central Appalachian areas in the early 1600s. And what I'm finding out as I'm studying is that they probably were slave traders, actually. And so I have like this conflicting ancestry in me that is like the oppressed and the oppressor that merged in my DNA, and it's explaining a lot of things, and there's a lot of work to be done there. But no, I'm digging through.
That's
I'm
awesome.
digging through that.
And that is so wonderful. I went to a journal writing conference, and what was so interesting was one of the speakers had a PowerPoint presentation, and maybe I was one of 3 people of color at the conference. And it was stated in the conference, we are all from African ancestry.
Right.
Nobody flinched.
Right.
What I don't understand is when we speak about it in the general public, people want to be like, I don't understand the disconnect, but it just felt so good to be in the company of people who were not like me, accepting the fact that we were all the same.
Yes.
From that perspective. So yes, Tracy, I would love to continue this conversation.
Yeah.
In that kind of forum, because it's time for all the secrets to end. That's why we're suffering as a society, because everybody has these secrets. And a dear friend of mine, she's light-skinned, and when I put the post about sharecropping on Facebook, she mentions a cousin of hers who were sharecroppers, and they were treated very well. And it sort of I was happy for her, but it irritated me because I had just read in the same book that I showed you about a woman who, they had nursing slaves.
Mm-hmm.
They would nurse the master's babies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah.
And this woman ran away. She was supposed to be nursing, but she ran away. And when they caught her with the dogs. And
Wow.
the dogs tore her breasts off.
Oh my gosh.
She lived.
Mm.
She didn't nurse anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else had to nurse the babies.
Mm-hmm.
But here was the amazing backstory in my mind. She probably used herbs to heal her breasts.
Probably right.
But, you'd be surprised. I mean, just from them not having the real stories in the schools, in the educational system, everyone is missing out on so much of all cultures. They're missing out on the horrors. Because even when I studied labor, I studied women's studies. Mm-hmm. In that book, I forgot the name of it right now, but it's a wonderful labor studies book. And it told the story of how the women would be put in a ditch and beaten, and the blood would run from their milk. All of these stories, when you read about them, people who love reading their history, as I do, we have these stories in us, and yet we have to function in a world that's against us and for us at the same time. And it's just mental acrobatics. Wow. And spiritual acrobatics and emotional acrobatics. Yeah. That's why discernment is so important. And that's how a person like Tracy and my friend Jennifer can be my sisters, you see. Right. Because it has nothing to do with skin color. It has everything to do with your heart. So inside, bottom line, you make a very good, valid point, and it really is just this simple. Mm-hmm. The truth will set you free. Mm. So when you know the truth, or you know the origin of, what was the truth, rather than being something that has been hidden or buried or in secrecy. And when you're around people who have the knowledge, that know the truth, they can only respond to the truth. So that's why when you was in that audience and you didn't get any type of, how would you say, adverse, response, because those people were educated enough and they knew the history. Otherwise, they probably would not have been in that forum. True. I'll tell you one other thing real quick. When I first came to New Jersey, I had a mentor, and he happened to be from Europe. He was from Hungarian. And if you spoke to him and you used certain words, you had better understood what the words truly meant in the context you're trying to deliver it. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't, he would definitely correct you. Mm-hmm. And the reason he felt that strongly about it, because when he came here, he had to learn how to speak the language here. Mm-hmm. But he also understood the history of this country before he came here. Yes. He understood it better than people who went to school here. Yes. So if you had a conversation with him, and like I said, you're trying to articulate, what you're trying to say, you better, and if you didn't know, he would correct you. Mm-hmm. But as you know, the language we speak has many different meanings, depending on how you use the words. So it makes it a little difficult for someone coming from another country. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, I thought you meant this, but you really meant this. Right. Because that's how complicated it is. Mm-hmm. But the
the point I want to make on that note is that our history, I mean, when you know the truth, anybody can say anything they want to say. If someone who has knowledge to know that that's not true, you know, and this is where it gets distorted in this country. And when you do reveal it and say, hey, okay, I'm from here, or my ancestors are from here, or as you pointed out earlier, we all come from the continent of Africa originally, people are not going to always embrace that. They don't want to embrace it, and they don't want the truth.
Right.
So even in your own families, there's no truth. Okay, I just recently got more information about my biological father that lived to 92.
Wow.
I never knew him. I mean, I knew of him, but never knew him. Never had a conversation with him. And it wasn't because it was me, it was because it was him. He never could face me after so many years went by to say, hey, look, let me talk to you, tell you why. But interesting thing, see this here on my wall here?
Yeah.
Just like, this is so funny. Ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
I did this about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me an indication where my ancestry is from, or where I'm from.
Wow.
Well,
Where, Donald, where?
I'll tell you, hold on. Oh, I can't make it bigger than this, but from New Jersey, Libya and Kenya,
Woo.
Kenya and Libya. So that's what my DNA is originated from. And obviously, like it's on my mom's side or whatever the case is.
Yes,
But it's interesting that you find this out, and then you pointed out how you on that quest right now. And I think that's awesome, because for many, many years, I just haven't really delved into it. You know, you get to a point you say, you know what, is it really worth it? But in reality, just by you expressing what you express, it is worth it. You need to know where your strengths and, you know, your connections are. And that helps define who you are to this day.
Mhm.
You know? So I come from a family of educators in my past.
Mm.
Do I know them? No. But it's ironic, I'm an educator today in my own way.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so
Now, when I did my DNA, it was West Africa, and I would have to go. It was National Geographic. I did it because Dr. Withers, a biology professor at Medgar Evers, was doing those DNA tests there.
okay.
And so what I found out though is, now I don't want to get the language wrong, but whatever it is, it's L1, and it was like the first level of the first generation of females or something like that. I come from that realm, and I have to read it again. I have to reread it because it's a lot of language dealing with genealogy that I don't understand yet.
Okay.
And I have gotten back into it through Greenwood Cemetery.
Oh.
Jeff Richmond, who's the historian, invited me to participate in Black History Month tour, Black in Brooklyn.
Nice. The Greenwood Cemetery.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so I was co-hosting that.
Nice.
And as a result, I became interested in the colored lots that is there.
That was there. Right.
Yes. So he has allowed me to be a volunteer to begin to research the bodies. There are over 1,000 bodies.
Whoa.
So on Ancestry,
Whoa.
where I'll be going. So far, I found a baby who died. She was a month and a half old of acute bronchitis. And these are Blacks who lived in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
I've been introduced to a larger world of, okay, what happened to our people? But in the cemetery, there's the first Black female millionaire.
Wow.
Earned her money through real estate.
Wow.
There is another gentleman who was a millionaire. I think he might have been the third, but he was the first in Brooklyn. He also earned his money through real estate and the stock market.
Wow. Wow.
And he was involved with the draft fires where they were chasing Black people down and killing them because they felt that Black people were taking their jobs away. Mostly Irish population.
Mm.
And they had gone, the story goes, they had gone to his house to kill him. And he was married to a white woman.
Oh,
And he happened to not be home that day.
wow.
And she said, well, he's not home. And they went and, you know, looked all through the house and tore everything up. And sure enough, he wasn't there because they didn't kill her. But, you know, no stones were left unturned as far as they were concerned.
Wow.
They burned down the colored orphanage.
Mm.
It was there, but no children were killed. So there are a lot of historical moments that are not acknowledged. They're kept in the dark. And that's why we have these issues like critical race theory. You know, as far as I knew, math was always universal. Now they're messing with the math. So it's just a small segment of people, and I really don't know how they got that powerful. And it's hard to talk about culture and race without talking about politics, which I'm really trying to stay away from. But at the same time, it's the children are not paying attention.
Correct.
That's my concern.
Correct.
As
Because
we
they don't
talk
see
about-
the importance to it. I mean, or the value. I mean, it's you know, it's like if you don't know, if you're trying to be in a position of power, you know, the younger generation in particular, they have to understand the politics of it. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm in New Jersey, and I've always asked the question, and you can ask this in any state you live in, 21 counties in New Jersey. Each one of those counties have different laws and different political leaders in each one of those counties. And you go, well, why? If we're the United States, why isn't all the states uniform after each one?
I don't believe you're
Why the
saying,
counties not, right?
I just asked that question 2 days ago when we were talking about incest and how there are different laws for incest in each state.
Yep,
When I did the research, I was shocked.
I bet.
And it was not, I mean, it wasn't even a slap on the hand in some states, it was just ignored.
Correct.
So how can we talk about women's rights or human rights or children's rights and it not be uniform for the United States of America?
Because it's about the power, and that's where the divide comes in.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the power, and that's unfortunate, but that's what we're dealing with. So,
But is that where the powers are rooted? If the powers are rooted there, we're all in danger.
well, the fact of the matter is, we are, and you just pointed it out. You know, and the further the youth get away from it, and it's not politically correct in their minds, like but I think in reality they are being affected, and this is why you see, you know, the youth sort of take on a different role in their future, you know, and that's going to be important for them to do so. So it's almost unavoidable to not get into some type of politics. You just don't want to put that.
I just don't want to make it number
Right,
one.
exactly.
But Tracy, as in dealing with emotional trauma, what is your take on the rise in suicides among young people?
That is a really big problem. And in fact, in the state where I live, like the numbers are much higher here than in most of the US. Wyoming has an extremely high rate of suicide, especially in the young people. And that's something that's being talked about here a lot. One of the things I've heard you talk about, how the children are responding to the types of things you're talking about. I think that they are not aware of so much of it. So, we are definitely in two different worlds. Like Wyoming is so different from from where you were, and I have never been to the northeastern part of the US, so I have so little knowledge of what it's like there. But I can say here, I just know from my experience living here for nearly my whole life, like so much of the reality about whether it's racism or any other aspect of humanity where people are disenfranchised or marginalized or something. So it could be the elderly, it could be people with disabilities, anything like that. That is so swept under the rug here in Wyoming. It is just not talked about, and I think it's beginning to change. I've seen changes just in the last 10 years, but like growing up, I think back on it. So it's actually been an interesting experience for me to return to college more than 30 years after I had to leave, because the difference in how things are taught is incredibly noticeable. And I don't know if everyone has the opportunity to see that. But so in the days where I was going through high school and beginning college and everything, history was taught in such a sanitized manner. And so in my area of the country, it is the Native American history that has been so swept under the rug. And talk about a group of people that were so wronged and still are.
Yes.
It was so sanitized and polished, and like you just didn't bring it up. And in where I live, if you bring up those things, you will experience retaliation.
Exactly.
And I have been a strong voice in my community for speaking up for disabilities, for speaking up with, so when my sons were going through high school here, there was major bullying problems and violence in schools and everything. And that was swept under the rug. And my sons experienced that. And there was a lot of hatred towards like the gay community, and children from the LGBTQ and stuff just and still do experience so much harm in this community. And so I have really been a voice for that here, and I tell you, I have experienced the consequences of it. And but I'm still going to continue to be a voice for it. Things are beginning to change here. In fact, in the town that I live in, Cheyenne, they passed a city ordinance making it a crime to like harass or in any way harm somebody, because that was a big deal for Wyoming. Like, I am so thrilled about it. But so I kind of got a little bit off topic, but what you asked, but kind of just say like,
that's right on the same topic.
Right, like all of that together plays in that rate of suicide with the young people. And I think because you can't have an honest it's not safe to have an honest conversation about this in this community, I think is part of what is contributing to the high suicide rates, because the kids are experiencing everything, but they're in this horrible state of cognitive dissonance, which is the mental acrobatics you were talking about, where they are experiencing it, they're seeing it, they're receiving the harmful treatment, they're seeing their classmates receive it, but there's also being told, there's that message of stay quiet, don't speak up about it. And I mean, the human spirit, the human spirit can be endured, especially children.
Especially in this time in our society. And there's so much uncertainty when it comes to your moral compass and what's right, what isn't right. Bring up a good point about Wyoming. I've never been to Wyoming or Cheyenne, but I do know that there was a major African American population. They were cowboys. And we always had this stigma, as you pointed out, that we think of cowboys being like the Lone Ranger and Tonto, and that was it. And that's not the truth. But it is very interesting about, also, you touched on suicide. And to that point, Carolyn, just yesterday, I was with Dr. Tracy, and she brought your name up. Okay, and we kind of reference you to some degree, but here's the things, conversation I had with her about a month ago. The suicide rate amongst young people. She's a pediatrician.
Mhm.
So she sees them and they come in with not just for the physical, but the mental. And she said it would blow your mind to have conversations with these young people
Mhm.
and to realize why so many of them are committing suicide.
My God.
So it ties right into what you're saying. You way on the west side, you know, it's in the air, okay? And no matter how much you try to divide, you know, a nation in terms of the problems and the situations that we're dealing right now from a physical and mental health standpoint, it's definitely going to affect the youth because they have it clouds their vision.
Yeah.
You know, if your future looks bleak and you don't have anywhere to turn, you know, you can easily go a different way. Okay. And once it's clear in terms of your direction, then they flourish. But far too much, like you said, you know, the hatred, this group don't like this group, this one don't like this one, the bullying. I hate a bully.
Oh, I
Even when
can't
I
stand
watch
the bullying.
I don't like even athletes who bully other athletes. It's kind of crazy.
It
But
doesn't make any sense. I
Doesn't
mean, and first of all, adults who bully adults, what is
make any sense.
and that's where domestic violence comes in. That's
Yeah.
a form of bullying.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to bring out this point. Please, I think it would be great to invite her to participate in this type of forum if she's open.
Oh, yes, yes. And in fact, she is. But let me give you one point that was brought up.
Mhm.
She's at a point she could retire. She spent 26 years. And at some point, what she said was, she said, you wouldn't believe they had me see 29 patients in one day. And I said to her, I said, you know what they're doing, right? They're trying to push you out. And she said, the only reason she's still there is because of the youth, the children. Because she feels if she pulls out, who are they going to turn to now?
Yes.
So, but she's so inundated with not having enough time to even think. So yeah, I would definitely invite her to the next one. And I know she'll get on.
Yeah.
And just send me the invite and I'll pass it on to her.
Thank you.
But just for the mere fact, she said, I said, well, in an 8-hour day, how do you deal with 29 young people? I mean, how much time are you really spending with them?
Right.
You got to see 29 in one day.
Right.
It was just an extreme overload. But part of the psychology of it is, in my opinion, that's one way of them trying to push her out.
And breaking her down too.
That's correct.
She can't be effective. When I was working in the funeral home, and this is National Doula Day, National Death Doula Day.
Today.
So I'm going to tell you this story in honor of a young woman. I don't remember her name, nor would I call it if I remembered it. But I did keep her picture. It's in my files. Who committed suicide by hanging herself. Her family found her 3 days later. And I had the misfortune of witnessing her and the damage she had done to herself. And it just stuck in my mind that, you know, and from what I understand, it was might have been from bullying, you know, that cyberbullying.
Yep.
Because
it
was said by her family that she didn't feel beautiful.
Oh.
She was dark skinned, you know, and I have heard young people attack others because of their skin tone. I don't know how many centuries it's going to take for us to get out of that. But all these underlying cracks in the concrete in this country, things are starting to crumble, you know, because our minds are so distracted by things that have no meaning.
Right.
That's
None.
why the need for healers to step forward now and have be very vocal and very intentional about what they do in whatever modality they do it. This is our clarion call. If we don't speak now, when are we going to speak?
Never.
And
Yep.
you know, that's what the Healing Project Wellness Series is all about. It started out as the pandemic series.
Mhm.
We were in the midst of a pandemic, and now, thank God, we're moving away from it. Even though it's still lingering somewhat, we're dealing with post-COVID symptoms and all of that, which there are herbal treatments for that, like James Still's great-great-grandson said, we have an herb for that, you know.
Nice.
And so it's time for us to continue. We've always been preaching this, you know, from the time we became enlightened, but it's time to really come together as a community, because that's how we strengthen ourselves, by showing the world what community does, why community should exist. And if we can't have it as a norm, like going out into the community, because even I live in an apartment building and we don't know each other anymore like when I first moved here.
I know.
Everybody knew everyone.
Yeah.
You know, now there's been so much moving around that you see people in passing, and out of 46 people, maybe you know 6.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, all I could say is we must keep up the good fight.
Yes, and you keep doing what you're doing, because I think it's so important. We don't even realize how important it is until we actually connect. You know, we, like you said, we get so trapped in our own everyday lives and what we think is important. And in the whole scheme of things, all it takes is just a little bit from each one, pull together, and that's how you get strengthened. This is what you're doing in your community. This is what you're doing in your community. It's what I try to do in my community. And each one kind of can keep doing that. It's going to get better within your circles, especially. But if you can expound on that and express it to others, even those don't even know it yet.
That's right. And our encouragement of each other is very important.
Just Tracy's stories already that she shared, already I connected with her on several different levels. And there's just such much more, you know, that we can share. So very good.
And I don't want to, you know, I could keep you all here all day. Save the date for the Healing Project Wellness Series, and we'll be covering a variety of topics as always, and we're looking forward to seeing you at that time. As we always say, you must change, because life is all about change, and you're going to change whether you want to or not. In every moment, we're losing cells and we're gaining cells throughout our body. Let's make them healthy cells.
Right, like that.
Today's meditation is, I am bountiful. I am beautiful. I am my ancestors' harvest. I am. I
like that.
That is nice. Very nice. Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. And it was a pleasure to meet you, Donald.
Likewise, Tracy.